You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
Long Island mortgage deadbeat. This guy hasn't made a payment in like 21 years. Is finally booted after, well, it's saying 23 years here in the title. So let's go with that. 23 years. Can you imagine? Now you can, because I'm going to do a whole podcast on this. We've talked about this guy before. Just his approach to staying in a home. I mean, you got to be able to dig deep. You got to be able to really go the distance. You got to be able to have your credit destroyed. You've got to be able to declare bankruptcy. You have to move people into your home and have them declare bankruptcy. Those are the lengths that this guy went to default on his mortgage and yet remain in the home. And this is why some of the reason I'm reading this is because this has a local connection. This actually has a Seattle connection. The original loan was made by none other than, too big to fail, Washington Mutual, friend of the family here in Seattle, until they went sideways during the Great Recession, like so many other lenders. But Washington Mutual went out in flames. They went down hard. All right, let's jump into this. I've also got a secondary article I'm going to be reading today. Sheriff starts evicting Queen Anne Motel with crime-ridden history. We've got some crime going on today. We're going to talk about some deadbeat mortgage guys getting thrown out. We're going to talk about squatters getting thrown out. And we're going to talk about a brawl that happened in Atlantic City amongst National Association of Realtor real estate agents and mortgage brokers. Those guys know how to throw down. Oh, don't forget to remind me to talk about that. I'm going to try and remember that is a funny one. All right, let's read about the guy who's been in the property for 23 years and hasn't made a payment. The free ride is finally over for a Long Island man who went more than 2 decades without paying a penny on his mortgage, while courts failed to evict him. It wasn't like this wasn't in the court system. He just kept coming up with stuff. Guramrit Hanspal, 52, bought the 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath East Meadow home in October 1998 for $290,000 with a $58,000 down payment. So he had a loan amount of like $250, right? I'm just going to go with broad strokes numbers, $250. He made the first mortgage payment of $1,602.37. So $1,600 is what he's paying. And then he never paid again. I am both impressed and repulsed by this individual. That just takes some, I don't even know what to say. It's just such a crazy story. How long you been living here? About 23 years. How many payments you make? 1. How does that work? Can you say abuse of the judicial system? The house was foreclosed upon in 2000. That's how long this guy has been hanging on. 21 years. 21 years. Over the years, Hanspal filed 4 lawsuits and 7 bankruptcies, cases which automatically pause any attempt to evict. He even claimed COVID-19 financial hardship, court records show. I'm sure he did. He was looking for any single angle that just let him stay in the home. This guy was he should make a YouTube video about his process. No, he shouldn't, but I would watch that, but it'd be like, all right, here's how to do crime. No, we can't have that. I'm sure that wouldn't get taken down by YouTube, though. YouTube would just be like, all right, hall pass. Yeah, good information. Other occupants of the Kenmore Street house also filed for bankruptcy along the way. As the house legally changed hands from one bank to another and finally to an investor, all of whom tried in vain to get Hanspal out. Imagine that. You've got this guy in there. He's been in there for 23 years. Just the fact that he was able to stay, that is some staying power, people. That's nutty. Time and time again, law enforcement officers would show up to boot the deadbeat residents, only to be confronted with court documents giving Hanspal another chance. Hanspal, who frequently represented himself in court, there's a shocker, and used different lawyers, would then abandon most, if not all, the court actions he began, defaulting or failing to show up for hearings. But he's buying himself time, just inordinate amounts of time. What I find really interesting about this storyline is that he finally gets booted out during one of the biggest eviction moratoriums in history. You know, we've got forbearance, we've got all kinds of stuff to try and keep people in their homes. And yet during the pandemic, this guy, he gets the boot, he gets thrown out. Well, you know, I would say, well, it's about time. But I mean, seriously, 23 years, that is just nutty, right? That all, okay. He would then abandon most, if not all, the court actions that he began, defaulting or showing up for, or failing to show up for hearings. That all changed on Friday morning when Nassau County Sheriff's deputies descended on the 2-story corner home to change the locks. 2 months after Judge William Hohauser ruled that Hanspal was in the house illegally. He has been squatting there along with his people for the whole time. They made one payment. They were in default after one payment. How's your credit? Not good. It was actually the second time authorities attempted to oust Hanspal since Hohauser's September 14th decision. And this article was written November 13th. So call it mid-November, this guy is out of there. Just a phenomenal run, right? I mean, so a U-Haul truck appeared in the driveway days ahead of a planned October 29th eviction. At the time, Hanspal declined to comment to the Post. Do you think he figured, you know what? I've had a good run here. I've been here without paying for 2/3 of a conventional mortgage, which is about 30 years. You know, I'd have 10 years left if I was paying this whole time, but I don't have that. I don't have any equity built up. But man, I really stuck it to the system, didn't I? I really stuck it to the system, really stuck it to these banks, stuck it to these investors who've traded this home back and forth. You want this? No, it's like a hot potato. You want this one? No. Geez, no. You take it. I mean, this thing has been passed around literally like a hot potato. Get it off my plate. Get it off my books. But the bid to clear out the freeloaders last month was scuttled when a purported resident, Pamjit Puar, ran to court on an emergency basis, claiming he had no place to go. Please stop eviction for 30 days only, according to a legal document. All right. So at the very end, there was a Hail Mary. Stop 30 days. Okay. I mean, the individual who's doing this, he hasn't been there since 98, but he knows what the deal is. Come on now. So you really, after all this time, you needed 30 days? Well, the law is what it is. And some judge was just like, okay, you got 30 days and then we're clearing this bad boy out. I don't know if the judge said that, but the judge did say stop, and they did. Hohauser waited 19 days to hold a hearing on Puar's request, but Puar didn't show up in court Tuesday to plead his case, prompting the judge to note the residents of the East Meadow home never appear in court, adding that there's a jaundiced eye after 23 years. I don't even know if he actually exists, is what this judge is saying about the homeowner. Half a dozen Nassau County Sheriff's officers showed up just before 8 a.m. Friday with a locksmith and movers in tow. Could you imagine being the neighbors, knowing what's going on with this house? Because, I mean, I've done podcasts on it. Everybody's got to know about this house, right? I mean, this guy is he is an epic, just, I don't even know what to call him. After knocking on the doors and getting no response, they entered. Movers worked for about 3.5 hours, removing the contents of the home. A stained couch, mattresses, box springs, broken down IKEA shelves, chairs, a stove, a tire, a child's electric truck. Current owner, Diamond Ridge Partners, purchased the home from Chase Bank in May 2018 for $184,000 and offered Hanspal $20,000 to get out. Instead, Hanspal filed for bankruptcy twice more. I mean, what is this guy's end game? I just want a free roof forever. And that's what he bought himself with his just destroying his credit. That's what he wanted. That's what he got. It just makes no sense. I mean, the guy's obviously I don't know. 2 other residents also claimed bankruptcy after Diamond Ridge bought the house. So you're Diamond Ridge. You're an investor. You've bought this home from Chase Bank, who I haven't looked at the series of transfers on this home, but Chase Bank basically bought out all of Washington Mutual's assets. I think that's how it went. Was it Chase Bank or was it Countrywide, or Washington Mutual bought out Countrywide? We had so many lenders go sideways during the Great Recession. Chase Bank kind of took over things. And can you imagine being the investor and you're like, okay, you show up in court and your attorney's working with the judge, and the judge says, well, no, we got yet another bankruptcy. And then, a few months later, no, somebody else in that property declared yet another bankruptcy. And you're like, how many more damn people in this home can declare bankruptcy and slow this bad boy down, the processions on this home down? How many more people are going to live in here and declare bankruptcy? I mean, that's just not how this should go. And yet it did, right? When one of the home's occupants, Bhagwant Shrekawala, 32, died in a Long Island Expressway crash this summer, a lawyer even argued the dead man's estate should qualify for protection from eviction that's been in the process for 23 years, even though legally tenancy rights end when someone dies. We pulled out all the stops on this property, right? I mean, all the stops. You've got dead people claiming they have rights to to stop an eviction. When you're reaching that far low and you're going all out, you're committed, you're fully 100% in. And obviously this individual was. So I'm looking, for those of you on the audio portion, I'm looking at a picture of the U-Haul van pulled up to this home. And it's not a bad looking home. I think it was fairly new when he purchased it from memory, but it's a nice little, I don't know, is it a 1,800 square foot split entry? It's got a 1-car basement garage, approximately 250 square feet. Totally guessing. I have no idea, but that's about what it looks like. So Hanspal didn't do anything wrong, said a lawyer who recently represented him. This is the great American legal system. A man can stay in a house with 1 mortgage payment, and he did not do anything illegal in all those 23 years, attorney William Friedman claimed. He's the poster child for a system that has failed. I'm going to go with Beavis and Butthead, particularly, was it Beavis? When he heard something he didn't enjoy hearing, he would just start screaming out, lies, lies. That's what I would say to this guy, to this attorney, William Friedman. You are lying, son. You're lying. He's the poster child for a system that has failed. Now, the system is you take out a mortgage and you make payments on that mortgage and your credit stays intact, and you repay the amount that you borrowed because you signed a contract. That is the system. And then after 30 years or whatever, you've made all your payments, you own that house, you've made all the interest payments to the lender, then you get clear title in your name. But this guy made 1 payment, and then he was just like, that whole contract I signed there, that whole thing, that whole repayment process, that doesn't really suit me. But, my lawyer says I'm a poster child for a system that has failed me, even though I didn't make more than 1 payment. I didn't even make 2 payments, yet I'm the poster child for a system that has failed me. It's kind of like mainstream media, how they handled the Juicy Smollett. Love saying that name, Juicy Smollett. It's how they handled disclosing that he was found guilty on 5 out of 6 charges, mainly lying, because he's a liar. Lies. We go back again to lies. So, Jussie Smollett, he just is a massive liar, period. That's all there is to it, right? I'm wondering if he might not actually get some jail time, because how many hours, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue of city resources were spent with the police investigating that, like 3,000 hours. How much money is that was spent on that ridiculous case that should have never been taken up? Because that guy's just a liar. He just made a bunch of stuff up. Like this guy, like this attorney, he's the poster child for a system that has failed. Failed who? Certainly didn't fail this homeowner, because this homeowner failed to make. He made 1 out of 360 payments. He had 359 payments to go. He made 1. Interesting, right? I mean, he took advantage of the system. He used it, and you're blaming him for being bad for using the system. I don't buy that. He's not a bad guy. The system is bad. He played by the rules. The system is completely broken. Every damn bit of it. This is an attorney stating this in eviction court, right? I mean, just like, what are you talking about? The system is bad? No, the system actually finally worked. It's a little slow, but when you do crazy stuff like declare bankruptcy, I mean, how far are you willing to go? You're destroying your credit. You're destroying your ability and to get a home down the road for XYZ number of years, depending on who the lender is. I mean, you're in deep when you're having people move in. Hey, you know what? I've been living here for a long time, no payment. Would you do me a solid, and would you mind, declaring bankruptcy and letting the court system know that you live here? Because then collectively we can all not pay the $1,600 a month that I owe on this home. We're going to get a free ride. Now, I know your credit's just going to get destroyed, and you're also breaking the rules by doing that. But, you're breaking the law. But, the system is bad. I'm playing by the rules. The system is completely broken, every damn bit of it. That's literally what the guy's attorney says. So, I mean, there you go, right? It's a long time coming, Kat said of the eviction. While this is a victory for us, and we're grateful for the ruling issued by Judge Hohauser, in a sense, it's too little, too late. And the damage has been done, Max Sold of Diamond Ridge told the Post, adding, I am disappointed that this individual is allowed to lie, cheat, and steal from hardworking taxpayers for greater than 23 years. Phenomenal. I mean, the ability for some people to go that far and take it to that extent, humanity just never shocks me, right? It's like, you're saving $1,600 a month. And how many people do you have living in that house? I mean, he's consistently had a house full of folks. So say he's got 4 people on average living in there. That's $400 a month. And he could have been playing by the rules. He could have been building up all kinds of equity. How much is this house worth? Don't know. But say it's even worth, say it's worth $350. He'd have some equity. All he had to do is make some payments, and it's worth way more than, that. We'll be lucky if we break even, said Diamond Ridge owner Jason Epstein, who was on hand to witness the eviction. I expected it would take about 1.5 years and about $50,000. It took 3 years and about 3 times that amount, plus the taxes for 3 years, which we had to pay. So there's stuff that's on the line, even though people aren't paying. Taxes got to be paid. Lenders got to pay those taxes. Right? I mean, there's taxes, there's insurance. Lender's going to pay for that because they don't want their asset to wildly go sideways. They'll do high risk, insurance. So the company plans, this is the company that still owns it. The company plans to renovate and repair the home and then likely will sell it. I can't really blame them. Will they even get out? I mean, it sounds like they might break even. The experience has served as a hard lesson, Epstein said. The New York State judicial system is a tragedy of errors that allowed a derelict to leech off of the hardworking taxpaying constituents for 23 years, he said. The fact that this man could cynically distort the law shows how pervasively tilted the playing field is in favor of scam artists who reign free and are able to commit fraud without consequence. That pretty much sums it up, right? It's not a broken system. I mean, the fact that it's taken 23 years, that part of the system, obviously, it's a little slow. Now, I mean, it is broken. It's broken from that standpoint for sure. But eventually, I mean, it's It's desperately maimed. How's that? Because it took 23 years to get there, which is it's the system is not in full operating order. How about that? When it takes that long to evict somebody, but in the end, it did work. Did get him out. It's like he must have run out of friends that are willing to file bankruptcy, right? Hey, do you know any other family members, friends, family, just business acquaintances that wouldn't mind moving into my house and then, possibly declare bankruptcy? It'll help us keep the house. Well, how much is your payment? Oh, $1,600. What are we doing here? Yeah, right. So that guy is out of there. Out of there. Whether this investor will be able to make any money on it, who knows? But 23 years. That's nuts. Another property in Seattle that has been on the radar because it's a little hotel. It's on Highway 99. If you're into following crazy videos, there's a bunch of channels now showing Aurora Avenue North or Highway 99 in Seattle, a little bit further north from the next story where I'm talking about. This next story is on Queen Anne, which is a good area of Seattle. This particular location on Queen Anne has been rough because it's been an abandoned hotel. An investor took it over, and it's just got these squatters that have been living in there, and there's just been incident after incident after incident, just a bunch of squatters living there. And that finally got out. That finally got cleared out. I think it was this past weekend. So we're going to read about that as well. And that is the sheriff starts evicting Queen Anne Motel with crime-ridden history. We're just going after the evictions today. People living in a Queen Anne neighborhood say they're feeling safer after evictions were made from the Hillside Motel on Aurora Avenue. And going back to Aurora, there's a bunch of video channels that have been showing the prostitution activity happening because that's kind of where it happens, up around the 135th block of Aurora Avenue North. This is down in closer to downtown Seattle. So it's a few miles away from that, but Aurora's really getting some national media attention because it's just a free-for-all for prostitution and stuff like that. So the Hillside Motel on Aurora Avenue North, it's been a hotbed for criminal activity for years. And residents have said they want something done about it. I don't blame them. It's this hotel that, it's not been open for business, and yet it's been open for business. The wrong kind of business, right? The King County Sheriff's Office said the court process for evictions has been going on since October. This is during the whole pandemic and everything. Everybody knows that that's a total nightmare. Notices were put out on November 30th for a December 6th eviction date. Janice Culpepper has lived nearby for 15 years. Oh, it's been problematic for years. I think it obviously got worse during the pandemic, Culpepper said. And that's true. The whole CDC thing, the beginning of the pandemic, don't move anybody anywhere. So police weren't doing anything. People weren't doing sweeps. But now we're seeing more and more sweeps because we're finally getting to a point where the city has basically stated, can't put this off for any longer. Guess maybe we'll do something. And they only have resources to get to so much. And it's taking forever to clear out some of these encampments and some of the worst properties. This is one of them. That's what we're reading about. While the motel has been closed for business, it hasn't stopped people from checking in. Checking in would be a generous term. How about breaking in and living there illegally? And there have been ongoing problems leaving people frustrated. According to Seattle Police Department back in October, thousands of fentanyl pills were found along with hundreds of grams of methamphetamine. In August, a fire erupted from an RV nearby. There was also a fatal fire back in July 2020. So you kind of get the idea. This isn't a place where you go hang out. You don't take the kids there and, hey, you want to check out an abandoned hotel? We can shoot a little YouTube video. This is not that kind of place. This is a do not enter type place. Yesterday's work was a culmination of months of legal work under the property owner. He's going to obtain a writ of court and an eviction order from the court. Once that's obtained, the sheriff's office has an obligation to fill that order, said Tim Meyer with the King County Sheriff's Office. Social services and resources were offered as ways to help people get back on their feet. They always are. But a lot of these folks, they don't want the help. They want to just continue living their lives. Neighbors like Culpepper said that while they're glad to see change, They also want to see long-term solutions. So you need to get this hotel back up and going. But getting these people out of it, kind of that first step, right? I'm happy about it, but I'm concerned it's going to push people to disperse to even more parts of the neighborhood, said Culpepper. The King County Sheriff's Office also tells us there's still 2 units where eviction needs to happen. The court process for that is also in the works. As for what's next for the property, the owner will determine that. Well, I think you go in, you do a massive rehab, you lock the place down, maybe you put a security guard on it, and you get that bad boy up and running and becomes a hotel again. I don't know. Or do you tear it down in the meantime? Because it's just obviously such a problem. I know drugs, prostitution, fires, garbage, human feces, all that stuff was found at this location. So it's not a place you want to go hang out. Let's just put it that way. All right, so that's that one. So yeah, we're 2 for 2. We're getting properties emptied out. Well, for the most part, you still got a couple of units left, but we're heading in the right direction in some of this. It took 23 years in that one in New York. This one here in Seattle, it's been going on for a long time as well. I know it's been in the eviction process, or it's been, vacant and then occupied by squatters. Third thing I was going to talk about, there was an enormous brawl, big fight that happened. And thank you to you who sent me that lead. I'm not going to read the article on it because it's just basically National Association of Realtors. Interesting. Some good PR for the NAR. Got to pay some heavy dues. Yearly, it's like $700. And with that, you get the rights to have just a brawl, full-on brawl at the National Association of Realtors event I think it was in Atlantic City. So you got a bunch of realtors, a bunch of people paying a bunch of dues to be a member of this association, of which we're not. Summit Properties is not affiliated with this association, mainly because we don't want to pay the dues, and that's kind of where we're at. It's an all in or out thing. So either your office is 100% in or your office is 100% out. Summit Properties Northwest is 100% out. And so the video I watched on this, there's a backstory of sorts. I don't know what it is, but this was like an MMA event gone sideways. And if you didn't know any better, these guys taking swings, they were taking some pretty hard swings. They were knocking some people on their rear end. Girls were trying to clear out, get out of the way, because it was just such a free-for-all of just guys duking it out. But talk about not good optics for the real estate profession, specifically the National Association of Realtors. So if you want to Google that, there's one video that I could find that was just like, oh, yeah, that's a fight. That is not something I want to be involved in. How'd your weekend away in Atlantic City go with all your realtor friends? I noticed you have a big black eye and your hand's all bandaged up. What happened? We got in a brawl. When do real estate agents get in brawls? When does that happen? Well, happened there. Just Google that stuff, right? Okay. That's about all I'm going to cover on that one. Because what are you going to say? A fight happened and there's a backstory, and do we care? No. But it was pretty entertaining to watch. I think it was like a 54-second video. And you're like, yeah, that's a fight. That's some adults acting like teenagers all hopped up on testosterone. There is no reason in the world for adults to get into fights. You know what I mean? Number one, the big reason is you might get hurt or worse. I don't really need that in this point in my life. I don't need to go to a convention where that kind of thing is happening. And I'm sure it was a one-off outbreak, but really? You're real estate agents and real estate brokers. You're going to go there, you're going to clap, and you're going to talk about somebody who sold a lot of real estate and some other mortgage guy that got millions of dollars of loans together. And then you're going to physically have an altercation. That seems a little weird, but to each their own. You guys do whatever you want in Atlantic City and the National Association of Realtors. I'm sure there will be some kind of explanation, but probably along the lines of mainstream media trying to explain Juicy Smollet's charges. He was convicted on some charges, is literally, I think it was MSNBC. He was convicted on some charges. I mean, we're not going to name them, but he's a liar. And these guys are brawlers. Live with it, deal with it. All right, that's it for me on this podcast. I know it was a little random, but those are some pretty good I mean, we wanted to talk about those, right? Guy getting booted out after 23 years. That deserves some coverage. So we did. And another hotel, getting those people getting a boot. We need to see more of this. We don't need to see more of adults who have real estate agents licenses belonging to the National Association of Realtors having a brawl. That's a no-go, but I just wanted to talk about that one anyway. So, all right. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for being part of the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. I will catch up with you soon. Until then, stay safe. We'll talk again. Bye for now.